Well, with the new year comes a new presidency. We were just talking about it. November 5th, Trump won. And now he's making the rounds. And so it was a big year for the GOP. Of course, you had Trump's win that many of us consider a landslide. Congress was both houses were won by Republicans. And now, as some would put it, everybody just wants to be Trump's friend. Progressive Mayor Muriel Bowser, she's the latest Dem, flocking to Trump. She wants to meet with him, and she did meet with him, I guess, to see how to make D.C. great again. This is her statement. She says, "Today, President Trump and I had a great meeting to discuss our shared priorities for the president's second term. President Trump and I both want Washington, D.C. to be the best, most beautiful city in the world, and we want the capital city to reflect the strength of our nation. I am optimistic that we will continue to find common ground with the president during his second term, and we look forward to supporting a successful inauguration on January 20th. I guess it's kumbaya in the capital city.
It's about time, because Washington, D.C. has a lot of work to do to make it the most beautiful city in the world. Yeah. And it should be, considering it's the capital of the United States of America.
Absolutely.
And I think that the mayor is a little bit concerned that President Trump will work with the Republican Congress to revoke home rule and reestablish the governance of Washington, D.C. away from the local city council and the mayor, who have done a terrible job.
You know what? And I can say, as someone who actually lives in Washington, D.C., the city was really moving and grooving back in 2017, 2018. I think there was tons of construction, lots of optimism. 2019, COVID hit, and then it was strange because it was shutting down churches and shutting down schools, but leaving open bars. And it was just an odd time. And then 2020, you had all the protests, and it seemed like the mayor herself was sort of encouraging this protest culture.
Riots. Riots in DC.
And listen, they burned buildings, they broke things, and the city is not recovered. So I'm hopeful. I'm sure she's hopeful as well. We'll see what happens.
We can all be hopeful. D.C. should be a place where everybody in America and all around the world can bring their kids and feel safe, because he belongs to all Americans, not just the people who live there.
You said it.
And speaking of everyone wanting to be Trump's friend, I pulled that line from this clip we're going to show you. This is Caroline Leavitt, the incoming White House press secretary. She says Trump's going to deliver on his promises on Hannity last night. Let's take a listen.
As President Trump has said, everybody wants to be his friend right now, and he's okay with that. He is building a team of people from Wall Street to Main Street who want to make this country great again and help him deliver on the promises that he made to the American people on the campaign trail. Common sense solutions to fix the problems in their lives. Cutting taxes, ending inflation, securing the southern border, deporting illegal criminals, rapists, and murderers from our American communities, and using peace through strength to end the wars and the chaos that we've seen the Harris-Biden administration cause abroad. It's truly a unifying message. And as President Trump has repeatedly stated, this country will be unified through success.
Positive words.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not surprised, and I think one of the things you're going to notice as she goes on in her career as the press secretary is she's incredibly disciplined and on message. I mean, literally every single time. But I think as she gets more experience, she's going to continue to expand the idea of convincing and selling, not just telling you what the policies are, but also trying to bring those people who are maybe not so sure about this second Trump term. She's going to be bringing them along, because her real focus is going to be, I want you as the American people to not just hear what we're doing, but to understand and to take part.
Well, and when you have good policy outcomes and you have good facts, it makes it a lot easier as a communicator to talk about those things. When the economy is not going well and your policies are resulting in hurting people, either personally or hurting the economies of governments or causing damage, it's very difficult to explain that away. Or, like the previous White House, the one that's outgoing, if you're trying to say that inflation is transitory, that's not really happening, that what you're seeing with your own two eyes is not happening, it's hard to explain that away. But if you have success that people can feel, it's a lot easier to talk about it.
You nailed it.
Kevin, that's a great point about Caroline taking this role and kind of how she's going to do it. I think there's multiple pictures of her sitting just off stage from, I think, one of the best press secretaries we've had in a while, Kayleigh, which is now our colleague. But if you look at Trump's press secretaries, from Sean Spicer, all the way through Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Kayleigh, there was such this antagonistic relationship. I mean, everyone in the press pool was coming in there trying to get gotcha. I wonder, on this topic of everybody wants to be Trump's friend, I wonder if that's actually going to change.
That's a great
question. Because what do they want more than anything?
Wow.
They want access. They want to be able to sit down and ask a question. They want to be able to pull, the president to the side and get some answers. And I think in this administration, they've had almost zero opportunity for that.
Well, when you look at the way that Joe Biden handled the press, he didn't do his end-of-the-year press conference, didn't answer questions. He's been hiding from reporters. They've been very frustrated with the way that they've handled a number of transparency issues, whereas Trump, during his first term, was talking to the press every single day, sometimes multiple times a day.
He really was. And, Joey, you're so right about that. And here's what I mean. Basically, what we're probably going to see a lot more of is people just trying to get to the meat and potatoes of what's happening. You can interrogate a press secretary fairly without trying to make yourself the story.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, and I was covering the Trump White House during that era, and I think we could all name some names of people who really just wanted their gotcha moment, people holding the microphone at press conferences when they were supposed to let it go. I won't mention any names.
We don't mention the names unless they want us to.
Yeah, unless they want us to. But I think hopefully, at least based on what I've seen in the press room of late, is more serious journalists, people who just want to get answers to questions. And we can only hope for the best. And especially when I think back to what Sarah Huckabee Sanders endured, just sort of the vitriol. I think that's a change that we'll probably not have to see again.
Well, and the press has a big credibility problem because of the way that they covered the Biden administration, especially in the last year when they got exposed for not asking the right questions and attacking fellow reporters for asking about cognitive decline, where the president is, what his schedule is. So they have a lot of making up to do when it comes to reporting fairly to the American people as well.
Let's see it. I know there will be other entities there that we haven't seen before. I don't know you can beat Peter Doocy, but we'll have some other folks there.
They'll be there. And Jackie.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.